Welcome to UnstuckAF, a podcast here to help you do you better. There's a path that starts where you are, passes through who you are, and leads where you want to go. We're here to hear from people who've walked that path or who are walking it right now. This is Orlando Bishop, Coach Orlando, and I thank you for listening as we learn how to get unstuck, how to be unstuck, how to live unstuck. Unstuck as fuck. Welcome to UnstuckAF, and this episode we have my friend Klee Wiggins. Now, what's crazy is, and we'll talk a little bit about how we know each other as we go, but Klee and I mostly have interacted via social media, specifically Facebook. So it's kind of funny, like I have all these memories of you, and I'm like, most of them would be like laughing emoji. But I'm glad to, we've spoken directly a few times, and I'm glad to have this conversation now.
Yeah, we have met in person.
Yeah.
And you do know my boyfriend very well.
Yes.
So there is, those things. Although you knew him before I knew him. Mm-hmm. Long before. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, he, when I first started standing on stage and telling jokes, Ed Greer was key in my development. We were definitely running buddies. Definitely running.
Yeah,
buddies.
I still have. There's flyers in this house with your face on them.
That's crazy. So there you go.
When the dreads was short and non-existent.
Right. So yeah, those were good times. Good times for sure. So in our conversations, and like I said, I've seen you, online and discussing things, and I'm always interested in pieces you share. But one thing that you've shared around that drew my attention and made me think this could be a powerful episode is some about around your health, some comments you've made around your health, and I wanted to ask more. So I'm going to start with the question that we start with essentially each time, which is, how and or when did you know that managing your health would be a big part of your life?
So actually, the anniversary of that is coming up at the end of this month.
Oh, wow.
But about 10 years ago, this month, March 25th, I had a series of what are called TIAs. They're basically mini strokes.
Okay.
And I had at least around 8 of them at that during that sort of 5-day, 6-day period. Between like when one of my cousins was actually getting married, and I was there at their wedding, to coming home from that wedding, and then having a couple of them when I got home, but they were much worse when I got home. So what I thought had happened when I was in Tennessee for the wedding was this did happen, and I thought it was just a side effect of it because it was literally the next day. And technically it was, but I was roofied at a bar, and I wasn't the only one in our party. It was a bunch of us, kind of like a not quite the bachelor or bachelorette party, but just a bunch of us went out about 2 days before the ceremony. Her husband is sort of a semi-well-known person. So he had like this private area, and a bunch of the people that he knows from his industry were there, and a bunch of our friends. So we had this like private area, but we were kind of partially sharing it with just this one other group of people. They, 2 of them turned out to be people who went around roofing people around the world. And about at least 2 other people in our party were roofied by that same 2 people in that party. But fortunately, none of us were then cornered by those people or assaulted by those people, which was their end goal, because there were so many of us. They never got any of us alone, but they did roofie me and at least 2 other people. And so, but the next day, I collapsed at my cousin's house, but I knew I had been roofied that night, because I'd only had about 2 drinks. And at that time, and I still do, I pride myself, I hold my liquor well. And 2 drinks would have been nothing.
Right. No way. Right.
There's no way I should have been as drunk feeling as I was, as out of it, as incapacitated. I was like, somebody did something to me.
Right.
And the 2 other people in our party kind of were the same way. And so, but the next day I collapsed at my cousin's house. I was trying to go get in the shower, collapse at her house in like this sort of hallway between the room I was sleeping in and where the shower I was using was, because there was a lot of people staying at her house. It was packed. It was like a hotel in there.
Gotcha.
And my cousin was downstairs, and they have in their house security cameras, and he saw me on the camera because where he was is, you can see it in this one screen they have. He saw me collapse, and he came running upstairs because he was actually the only one home at the time besides me. And he carried me to the bathtub, and he thought, you know, he knew I had been roofied, and he thought maybe it's like me, thought it was just a side effect. Carried me to the bathtub, rinsed me off, like put the water in my face. And then my brother came in, and he called my brother upstairs, and my brother, the first thing out of his mouth was, "There is something wrong with your face." And it was because it was drooping.
Okay.
And cut to, like, I went to the wedding. I still wasn't feeling myself, but I didn't have any other incidents. But I was feeling a little out. I was just feeling a little like exhausted, not quite myself, not quite being able to think straight. But I thought it was just a side effect of just getting over having been roofied. Of course. And came home from Tennessee a couple days later. And the day after I got home, I just straight up collapsed in my house. Ed had just left for work, straight up collapsed in my house. And that time it was much worse. Like, it was like 10 times worse than the first time. I couldn't think at all. I couldn't keep my mind, wasn't right. And I called Ed. I couldn't talk to him, so I hung up that phone call and texted him, and I go, "Something is wrong. Come home now." And he got home. He was on his way to the west side, and we live in the valley in LA. And if you know, that's like a long drive. And he was home in 15 minutes.
I bet.
Because he knew, like, he just knew something was wrong. And he came in, and I was in the bathroom, collapsed on the floor, not quite right. And he took me to the hospital, to this medical center up in Silmar, which is not far from where we live. It's like a 5-minute drive, and 10-minute drive, actually, about a 10-minute drive. And they took one look at me, and I was upstairs in a room, like, in 5 minutes.
Wow, really?
I went to the emergency room, to a room, like a patient room.
In the hospital. Like,
in the hospital, like, in like less than 5 minutes, and I was being assessed by a bunch of doctors.
Wow.
And then they came back a couple hours later after having all these tests and said I'd had TIAs, and they explained what they were, and that I had 2 more in the hospital. I was in the hospital for about 10 days, and then I had 2 or 3 more after I came home, and then I've had about 3 more since then, in the 10 years since.
Now, it seems, I mean, there's so many things there. First, obviously, I'm very grateful and thankful to be having this conversation with you after what you just described. I guess I'll ask about the experience itself. Like you said, other things you're trying to explain it. I would guess that would be a pretty normal thing to have happen in terms of, like, people being like, "Oh, I didn't eat today," or "Oh, this." Looking back, are there things that are specific now that you would think of as like, "Uh-oh, here it comes"? And what, like, when you were actually in it,
feeling like, did I sense it coming or any of that? No, I did not sense it coming. It comes without warning. Like, you can sort of be like, my brain's going, and then but it's like you have like 5 seconds.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right. It's like, happening.
You know, it's like almost like, you know how when an earthquake comes, you kind of can hear it before you feel it. It's like that. But it's like the difference in time is seconds. Yeah,
you're not gonna do anything about it.
You don't quite register, like it's like that. And then you know, and the symptoms are all like a stroke. It's just like the lasting damage isn't as much. I don't think it's as severe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think with like a lot of people with strokes, they become completely incapacitated. I
Right.
could still be like, I was still kind of mildly aware of what was happening. There was just
Mm.
nothing I could do about it.
Okay.
And it's painless. The
Mm.
actual
Oh, really?
experience is painless for me, at least. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
for other people, but I could sense my body like it was on my left side. I could sense it
Mm-hmm.
like stop cooperating
Mm.
and like not, having any sensation and not being,
Wow.
and the muscles going, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a painless experience.
Mm.
Like it didn't hurt. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, and I didn't feel anything in my brain or anything like that. Like there was no headache or any of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sort of sensation. But recovery, painful.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I had some other questions, but let's go down that. So yeah, tell us about the recovery and what
Because
that's like.
once you have gotten past it, then those muscles, it's not quite atrophy, but they're weakened.
Of course, right.
Um, so you have to do a little bit of physical therapy to get them back up. You
Mm-hmm.
have to do a little bit of walking. Like, fortunately for me, it wasn't so bad as far as um, getting back to being able to physically move around.
Mm-hmm.
But the lasting thing for me is that it messed up my circulation.
Mm.
So now if I stand too long, if I sit too long, if I don't
Mm.
have my feet up, um,
Mm.
I get the blood just pools and
Oh
my feet
wow.
swell and they'll get
Oh
like twice,
wow.
2, 3 times as big. So, and then if I have to walk a lot, like Ed and I
Mm-hmm.
go to a lot of cons, Comic
Mm-hmm.
Con and all that type of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
I use a cane. If I know I'm going to be walking a lot, I use a cane. And even then I can't walk as
Sort
much
of
as
endlessly.
like,
Yeah.
and I'm from San Francisco. That's a walking city.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to be able to walk, 5 miles like like it wasn't nothing.
Right, right.
And those days are
That's
gone.
behind you. Now, not being a doctor, being far from one, actually, have avoided science since high school. But I guess is those are so the direct relationship is that because there was the blood flow issue, now
Hmm.
that's how the blood flow issue manifests. Like, how does
Yeah,
one
like
and
I already had a condition where my blood is like it's thicker than normal or
got it?
thicker than typical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's been I was born that way. But and I had blood thinners when I was a kid and
Oh
stuff.
wow. Okay.
And I take a blood thinner now. I take a blood thinner medication, but when I was a baby,
Mm-hmm.
they like injected it
Mm.
and to like get it flowing well.
Sure.
But it's like, I mean, there are some benefits. Like they said, that's probably the reason why you can drink a lot. It's because it doesn't absorb in you the way that it does
In other
for a
people.
lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
uh
As opposed to me, who just drank a lot and just practiced,
yeah,
practice. No, here.
like Ed can't he 2 beers and he's like a sorority girl on the first day of pledge week. Like just terrible.
Love
Just
it, love it.
so even though he outweighs me by almost 150, 200 pounds. So, but I could drink him under the table any day of the week.
That's funny.
Uh, but but it also like it caused like when I had the TIAs because they were centered in my brain, but it also
Mm.
triggered a few things that they're like it probably in a way having TIAs now probably saved your life because you
Oh,
did have lesions on your brain that probably would have triggered a stroke in your 50s, 60s.
oh wow.
And they probably would have been a massive
The
stroke,
catastrophic,
a
yeah.
catastrophic massive stroke. But because you have these
Mm-hmm.
series of mini strokes now and you're
Mm-hmm.
on these medications now, the likelihood of that happening is significantly lowered.
Now, one of the things about your story that strikes me as interesting, one of the things, because there's several things there, is the cluster that seemed to, like, it's the wedding, you come home, there's a couple in the hospital, a couple after that,
Yeah.
and then it's over the however many years then you describe having a few. So I'm wondering, was there ever any did the did the roofie incident do something to sort of accelerate that, or do we
Yeah,
really
the
never
roofie,
know?
they're pretty sure. They don't know for sure, but they're pretty
Mhm.
sure the roofies instigated the TIAs.
Oh wow,
Um,
wow.
so, and it's a little known side effect of being roofied that it can trigger strokes and TIAs in people who are susceptible to having
Mm-hmm.
strokes and TIAs.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of women who've been roofied and men who've been roofied
Right,
have
right.
suffered strokes as a result.
Wow.
So, they are like, that is the most likely cause.
That's I mean, I'm not gonna
And
tell
it's like,
you.
that's a thing that's not talked about that much is that, so women in their 20s, 30s, men in their 20s, 30s, 40s are having
Mm-hmm.
strokes because they got roofied at a club or they got roofied by some jackass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not a thing they don't tell you. Like they always say, watch your drink because you don't want to, because you can get raped.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, a day, 2 days later, you might have a stroke.
That is whew. So I want to ask about that because and by the way, you can say jackass and all the other words on here, so don't you worry about that. But
Good, because I'm a cuss.
but here's the thing, like I would think there'd be a lot of anger around that. I mean, I hear you when you say, look, this might have been a way that this later thing didn't happen. And I totally hear that. And I'm thankful for that. Right. But part of me also says, like, whoever these two were who were, traipsing the globe, poisoning people. I mean, wow. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Like
just
these people are still wanted by Interpol.
like, seriously.
Still to this day, wanted by Interpol. Because most of their crimes committed, they did them in Europe.
Right.
But they have come to America a few. So the FBI, I think, is on because in the case, but it's mostly Interpol that's looking for these people. But anger doesn't serve me, and I'm not an angry person in general. Like I'm not a person who subscribes to being angry unless I'm an angry in the moment type of person. But a day, 2 days later, I'm not angry no more. Like I've had a pretty, like, as much heartache as I've had in my life, I've also had a very blessed life. So I'm not a person who dwells on that sort of thing, and I don't, it's never served me long run. I don't see how it could holding on to it, right, being angry. Like I'm upset, I'm pissed. Like, I think about it and it's like, yeah, that's just a shitty thing to do to somebody.
Yeah.
And what their end goal would have been horrific.
Even shittier.
And I am a survivor of having gone through that sort of thing. So I know what could have happened.
Right.
But it's like, if I hold on to that anger, how does that serve me going forward?
For sure.
It doesn't.
For sure. Well, I'll tell you what, you'll save a fortune in therapy. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know.
Well, I'm in therapy, so there's other things to be in therapy.
I guess that's right.
But it's like, it's not that, and it's not it doesn't, I don't know, I'm not that sort of person. But like, it has precipitated a couple of things. I mean, now the other things I'm dealing with medically, I don't know how much they're related, but they did come about at about the same time. Which is, I've had a lot of like female, like uterine fibroids. That's what we pretty sure they are now, but I just had a biopsy done a couple weeks ago, so I still haven't gotten my results back yet. But I've probably had these fibroids for 9-10 years, about the same amount of time.
Wow.
And they don't know, did the circulation issues cause these to develop, and now because I've had them so long, like, are they cancerous?
So that's what we're waiting for. So I guess that actually leads us very much, as we talk some, I was saying to you that I've been stunned, and I know it's beyond this, and all sorts of different folks have medical things they deal with, so that's not where, but specifically, I feel like over the last 5 to 10 years, I have become increasingly aware of Black women friends of mine who are navigating some pretty intense medical, let's just big net say stuff. And to the point where I almost feel like there's a part of what it is to be a Black woman in America that's at least if not wrapped up in that, that's too big, but that is definitely influenced by that or impacted by that. I'm just wondering if, as you were going through some of the problems you've mentioned, I'm just wondering if you see that element playing into this, or in the other direction, if it's something that impacts your relationship with other Black women one way or another.
Well, yes and yes. Because it, like we were saying like a little bit before, that the uptick that you're probably noticing is that the medical racism is being addressed more and more. So more Black women are being heard when they go to the doctor and say, I'm in pain. Or I'm experiencing such and such X, Y, and Z symptoms.
Right.
And being taken seriously. Whereas in years past, when our moms were our age, they were not taken seriously and they were dismissed and they went home and dealt with it on their own. Because they had to, because nobody took them seriously. There's only so much you can navigate the system. There's only so many no's you can hear before you're like, fuck it.
Right. Where do I go? I ain't got to go down there for that.
Yeah. And and that goes for Black men as well. So, and also because I think partially because of social media, you're having Black people talk to each other about these things and knowing that, hey, I'm going through this. Has anybody else gone through this? And then you're hearing, the 20, 30 of your friends are going through it.
Right. That's the astounding.
I'm in a Facebook group that's women only, and it's mostly women of color. But there are a few not like Caucasian women in it, but it was started by a woman of color, and she started it, and so it was mostly women of color. And we talk about there's mostly it's people with autoimmune issues, but it's other people like me who I'm dealing with what's probably, I hope, is fibroids. But I'm also dealing with the chronic pain and fatigue that I deal with recovering from my TIAs. I have a lot of issues, because the circulation issue causes me, I'm always tired. I'm always tired. 100% of the day, I'm always a little bit tired. And I wasn't, and that's a completely new feeling. Like that did not exist 10 years ago. And I'm like, and it's not just getting older. It's not just, going from my, early 30s to my early 40s. It's more than that. But but it's people talking to each other and hearing each other, and also like being more taken seriously. And medical racism does still exist, because it took me 10 years to get these fibroids taken seriously.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've been talking about this to my doctors literally since about around the same time I had my TIAs. Wow. They were like, is there any other issues you would like to discuss? And I was like, yes, actually, whenever the week before my period is the most painful time of my life. And they just like, oh, it's just, and it was dismissed as just traditional cramps. Traditional cramps for years. And I'm like, no, because I used to be crampless. I used to have the best period, that if you're going to have a period,
this was what you wanted to be like.
This is what you wanted your period to be like, was the period I had for the first 25 years of my life.
And now it's not that.
And now it is not that. It is, it hurts. And it only got worse year after year. And now I had an ultrasound a few weeks ago. Turns out there is the average uterus is between 6 and 8 centimeters. There is a 5 centimeter fibroid at what we hope is a fibroid in my uterus right now. And that is what causes me pain every month for the last 10 years. And probably 10 years ago, it was probably only a centimeter.
I was about to say it was not 5 centimeters. So
no.
I guess I'm curious to talk about that experience. And I definitely want to move to how you manage these things and like because obviously you're living your life, you're telling your jokes,
Mm-hmm.
you're having your, you know what I mean? Like, so you're doing your thing. But I would imagine to go to a doc or to have a doctor friend, not even you go to a doctor, you're in front of a doctor and the doctor says, "You good?" And you go, "Actually, no,
Yeah.
there's this problem." And they figuratively pat you on the head and say, "Oh, head on home now, little lady." I gotta think that's very difficult to make. Like, what's the
Yeah.
experience like in that
And,
moment?
because I'm just out here telling these jokes, I'm on Medi-Cal. I don't have some fancy insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So to change doctors, to get a new doctor, that's a
Mm-hmm.
months long experience. So
Mm-hmm.
it's being dismissed from every doctor.
Right. So you
So
don't have to
it's
do all that.
you waiting 5 months to see a new doctor for them
Mm-hmm.
to tell you the same exact thing, not to take you seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going through it again and again. And I gave up for about 2 or 3 years. I did not go to a doctor at all. Like in the last 10 years, I
Oh
went about
wow.
2.5 years of not seeing a doctor at all, not taking my medication, which was a very stupid thing to do. But I was
Mm-hmm.
just so over it. I was so
Mm-hmm.
pissed and just so annoyed
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, I don't give a shit anymore right now. And I was dealing with it fine.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my uh the things I had to deal with my TIAs, but
Mm-hmm.
I was not taking any blood pressure medication, which I
Mm-hmm.
should have been doing, and I was not on an aspirin regimen, which I should have been doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not on a blood thinner, which I should have been doing. And then about maybe 2-3 months into the pandemic, my
Mm-hmm.
blood pressure spiked high, super duper extra high.
Wow.
Like Ed called the paramedics and everything and they came in. Now the paramedics were so hot. It was the 3 hottest dudes I've ever seen in my life. They looked
I
like
love
soap
it.
opera actors. It was amazing.
I
I
love it.
was
You're
so glad.
like,
I'm like,
okay,
so glad the house is clean. I'm clean because goddamn. But it was embarrassing, but I was still like, and they like, I recommend, and I fortunately by then I had come to my senses, and earlier that year, a little bit before the pandemic started, I had started setting up my Medi-Cal again. And so I did have a doctor's appointment set up for about 2 weeks later,
Got it.
right, 2 weeks before this happened, but my blood pressure spiked super extra high. And I was just going to the doctor to be like, yeah, I have these TIAs. I should probably be on these medications. I haven't taken them in 2 years. But then I had that incident
Mm,
and they were like, you should go to we recommend that you could go to the hospital right now, but you say you
mhm.
have a doctor's appointment in about a week. And I have a blood pressure machine here. So
Okay.
they were like, monitor your blood pressure. And if it spikes again, go to the emergency room. But if it doesn't spike, then by the
Go
time
to
you get
your
to the
doctor.
doctors, it'll be all right.
Mhm.
So that's what I ended up doing. I went to the doctor like about a week and a half later.
And would you say
And
your decision? Oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, would you say your decision, or maybe it was over time, it kind of trailed off, but like you're not taking the medication was fueled by
It was fueled by being
that?
dismissed for
Yeah.
7-ish
Mm-hmm.
years of not being taken
Mm-hmm.
seriously for what was happening, with like the pain I was experiencing every single
Mm-hmm.
month for a week,
Mm.
4 days to 7 days, 4 to 7 days, every month of crying all the
Whoa.
time because of the pain.
Whoa.
Um, and having it be like, it's just, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. My
Mm-hmm.
pain threshold is high.
Right. So if I'm crying,
If I'm crying, there is something very, very wrong.
mm,
And
mm, mm.
being just nothing being done about it. And like,
Right.
what can I do?
Right.
What can I do about it? I can't prescribe myself,
Right. Right.
to go get an ultrasound, to go get a biopsy, to have a medication I could take at that time, and to get prescription strength ibuprofen, to get prescription
Mm-hmm.
strength acetaminophen, to have those not interact with my blood pressure medications and all the other
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I just got frustrated
Yeah.
and sort of like was fuck the whole system.
Right.
But then like, I said, like I
Right.
came to my senses and I was like, you know what, I should take care of this. But the walking became worse. The ability to walk a long distance became
Sure.
worse, where there was a shorter and shorter, and I was like, I should go back to the doctors and get this taken care of, and then hopefully I get a doctor who will take that seriously. And
Right.
I lucked out, and I did. I got a
Right.
woman doctor, and I got a woman person of color doctor.
Good.
And I'd never had that before. I'd had all men and mostly white men.
Right. And
this is the first woman of color doctor I've ever had.
For those who might doubt why representation matters, right?
It makes a difference. She took me seriously, and she ordered all the tests. And so then, she was like, well, let's see, because of your age, let's see, hopefully maybe you're going through menopause. Let's give it a couple, 6-ish months to a year. And we'll get you a medication you could take at will during that painful time, so you're not sitting up crying at night.
Right.
And and so then it's been a year and a half, and she was like, okay, let's get an ultrasound and let's get a biopsy.
I can't help but wonder how many Black women specifically, and I'm women of color expand, but have had the analogous 1 centimeter, to 5 centimeter experience, because they're like, I'm not going back down there to tell them this again. I told them, right? I mean, it just seems to me, in addition to, it's got to lead to some horrendous outcomes, maybe some of which we're not even aware of. I was thinking,
it does. It leads to Black women are diagnosed later than white women for breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, pretty much almost all cancers. They are more likely to die of a heart attack. We're just not taken seriously. And same thing with Black men. Black men are more likely to die of a heart attack.
Right.
Black men are more likely to die of several different types of cancers, including breast cancer, because they're not tested. They're not even tested for breast cancer.
Right.
Men are, on the whole, not tested for breast cancer as much as they should be. And Black men are not tested barely at all. But Black men die more, die at higher rates for prostate cancer. And it's all because, they don't trust the medical system, or they're dismissed by the medical system.
Yeah.
And they don't trust the medical system because they're dismissed, or they watch their friends and family get dismissed.
Right.
So why would I mess with them? Fuck it.
Yeah. I get it. So obviously, though, you did re-engage. And you are, functioning and doing your thing. I guess I'm wondering what that's like, or how you've shown up to that.
It's been a lot better experience this time around. I'm able to go to a doctor that's much closer to the house, because before I was traveling all over creation to go to these doctors, and doing that in LA is the most irritating thing in the world. And now most of the time I'm going 5 minutes from my house.
Okay.
Like I said, I have a doctor who's a woman of color who listens and takes me seriously and now I come to her with every little thing, because she fucking takes it all serious.
Right.
I found a mole on my leg, and I was like, I am going to go tell her about this. Let me make it a point.
Go. Hey. Right.
Now Medi-Cal is obviously, it's also easier to navigate, and the easier it is to navigate, the easier it is just to get through it. Before, I would be on the phone for hours. Hours, literal hours. And now they have an app, and I go on the app, and then a day later I get an email back.
I'm so glad you spoke to that navigating piece, and I'm not in any way equating these situations, but that piece, you probably know about me. I was diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago, and so lived my whole life, didn't know, blah blah blah. But I'd had some trouble a year up to that finally brought it to where I needed to figure out what was going on. And I've shared, actually, once I got it done and got in and all that, I was like, it is absolutely cruel for someone who's looking for an ADHD assessment
Mm-hmm.
through that bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Like that is wrong. like it's just wrong as a wrong. I mean, that's exactly the
Like,
kind of thing
I won't put
navigate
too much of it out there, but I've had to do it for Ed because he cannot do it himself. It's not a thing that he's capable of. It's just not something that he has the wherewithal, the mental capacity, the space, the energy to do. It's just not a thing for him. And so I set up his Medi-Cal about a few months after I got mine all straightened out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it now for Ed because we're getting older, and he has. I know he's not been to a doctor the entire time we've been together.
Oh wow!
Until recently, until the last 2 or 3 years, like around the same time as I did. So, he'd been to a doctor one time, and that was when his back, because he has back problems. His back seized up on him a few months after we moved together. Oh, the whole time I had the TIAs. That was also the same time that Ed and I moved in together.
Oh,
so he moved in and got a crippled girlfriend right away. But the same week I came home from the hospital, his back seized up on him, and he was on the floor, curled up, crying. And and Ed weighs 300 pounds. No way I'm getting him any goddamn where, even at my healthiest.
Right.
Trying to figure that out.
Got it. Yeah.
So irritating. And then finally, like once we got it all straightened out, and then the same time I got, like in 2020, I was like, let me get him on Medi-Cal too.
Right.
And now he goes to the doctor regularly. He hates it. He's annoyed every single time
that he goes, right, but you go.
But yeah, he's taking care of his mental and his physical health much better now, and he got a diagnosis about his back finally.
Oh, good.
And and has got a diagnosis about all the other things. So, but now he's the same way. Like, he can do it once he had it all set up through the app. Now it was annoying getting it all set up.
But once it's set up.
But once it's set up, now you can do pretty much through they call it a portal.
Right.
But you just go on their portal, and you can contact your doctor. You can get your prescriptions renewed. You can do whatever you need to do. Gotcha. And they deliver my prescriptions. I don't have to go nowhere.
So you really have to. It's really convenient.
So delivering my prescriptions has been
that's pretty sweet. I bet.
I love it.
So for you now, navigate, like what? Okay, I guess there are two separate tracks that I'd like to spend a little time on. One is I'm someone who's experiencing X symptom. I'm about to go to the doctor. What things can I be doing either to ensure that I'm taken seriously or to demand that I'm taken seriously? Like, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Or what should I be listening for to know that I'm not being taken seriously and that I might need to go elsewhere?
Well, I have found for myself, the number one thing is finding the right doctor. And that just took sort of, for me, it was obviously, like I said, got frustrated with the system, let it go for a little while, came back in it, and got lucky. But it's, it's a doctor that will take you seriously. That's the number one. You need somebody who listens to you, whoever that might be. Now, a doctor who didn't take me seriously might take somebody else seriously.
Got it.
So I'm not saying it's not like ACAB for doctors, That's not the thing I'm like advocating for. It's right. But all doctors should take every patient seriously. And even if it's a waste of your time, they should take you seriously. Like I said, like I went for that mole in my leg. She was like, it turned out to be nothing.
Right.
But she took me seriously. I'm like, I'm a little bit, I'm not light skinned, but I'm light skinned enough that this mole could be something.
Right.
So let me go in and have her take a look at it. And then she sent me to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist came back and it was just like, it's just a new mole on your leg. It's fine.
That's it.
And she's like, and they took a little sample, but she also took me seriously when I said this pain is for my uterine or whatever was going on down there is painful. I cannot take it anymore. I literally cannot take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And she took it seriously, and I'm finally getting it. And that just having her say, okay, here's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's going to be a minute, and you might have to suffer a little bit more, but I hear you, and this is what we're going to do. And
Moving
then
forward.
moving forward, and that just knowing that all these steps were going to be happening, and it's taken a long time, and still navigating Medi-Cal fucking sucks. But
Mm-hmm.
it's knowing that at every step I can contact her, at every step I know that she hears me.
Mm-hmm.
That just is the relief of that.
Yeah.
That I don't feel like I'm alone. Even though Ed is here, all he can do, he's a man.
Right,
All he can
right,
do is like come in here and hold me and be like,
right.
it's
I'm
gonna be all
sorry.
right, while
Right.
I cry with a
Right.
heating pad on my pussy.
Right. I love that.
You know what I
That's funny.
mean?
Yeah.
So
I do hear you.
it's just that much, I don't feel alone in it anymore. And even though I even had, other women who've been through it, who are
Sure.
going through it, it's still, when you're going through it in that minute, it's alone, and you don't know what the next step is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a doctor who will take you seriously, but you do have to advocate for yourself. You have to speak up and tell the truth. Be honest. I'm honest with them about my drinking. I was honest with them about how the drugs I did in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I was honest with them about everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you lie to everybody else in your life, do
Make
not
sure.
lie to your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and tell them the truth, but also be like, but this is not normal. What is happening has nothing to do with that coke I snorted with that drag queen when I was 27. That it got nothing to do with what's happening right now.
I'm about to have you back on here so we can talk about that. But that's another. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that.
It's about it's those things. That don't mean because I partied in my 20s. That mean I gotta suffer now?
Yeah.
No.
Not that way. No, not that way at all. And I guess one of the things that with the line that we do
so
is
advocate for yourself and tell the truth. Be honest, but also be like, demand that you be heard.
Yeah.
But also look for the doctor that's going to take you seriously, even if it takes a long time. And I know it sucks for somebody that's got something that's real acute.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sucks for people that have mental issues that makes it so difficult to just get that straight in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully those people, you find somebody that can help you with those things, a family member, a friend who's willing to then help you go to bat.
Yeah.
You need backup. No man is an island.
Got it.
So, if you had been so bad with your ADHD, Daphne should have been right there. That's her job.
Right.
Just like, and it's, for me, I can do it myself. Mm-hmm. But I would hope but Ed would have been there.
Right.
And he would have gotten it together.
Right.
If it had been, like when I had my spike and I was like, thankfully I'd already got this all together, but he would have helped.
Yeah.
He would have hated every second of it. He'd have bitched. He'd have been a complete jackass about it, but he would have done it.
Right. Sooner for you than himself, if I know Ed.
Yeah.
Sooner for you than himself. So yeah, no, I hear you on that.
Yeah, because when I had my TIAs and he took me to the hospital, he filled out all that paperwork. Now this man writes like a serial killer. He hates those types of questions. I'm sure that paperwork, I haven't seen it in a long time, but that paperwork probably looks like trash.
That's funny. But he did it. But he did it. Mm-hmm. I love that. So where I wanted to go is one of the things that we talk about our who, like in the aligned methodology. One of the things that people talk about is like, we talk about how do you show up to make it most likely that you get where you want to go. And it seems to me the way you're describing it, that for you includes going out, living your life pain-free, having a good, healthy relationship with your doctor so that you can be healthy. All these things. If I watched you navigate this for a month or a year, what are some words I might use to describe you navigating it this effectively?
I mean, I just go with, I'm in like the government insurance, and this is America. So I just take it with, it's gonna be all bullshit as far as navigating the the bureaucracy of it all. But I just take it like, but I'm, I've been described by many people as being sort of cat-like. I just take it as it comes. I am who I am, and you're going to take me as I am. But I'm also chill. I'm practically not doing anything.
That's funny.
So I just know what to expect.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get frustrated by a process that I already know is going to be frustrating. Like, I'm not going to go, like, I'm going to navigate Medi-Cal and then be mad at Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal sucks. Like, I'm glad. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for, the Affordable Care Act, because that's what had just gone into being effective when I had my TIAs, like literally about barely a year old. So I'm thankful, super thankful. I would be dead without it, because I would have probably been money over taking care of myself, and it would have been, I'm probably in like almost the millions of healthcare.
Wow.
At this point. So, and I'm in debt from a medical thing I had happen in my 20s. I'm still in debt from that. It's been crazy. 22 years. That's still on my credit report. Now they're not calling me every day anymore.
Right, but
whenever my credit report gets pulled, it's sitting right there. As I owe these motherfuckers, $75,000.
Right.
They're never going to see that money unless Ed sells the best screenplay he's ever written in his life. But it's sitting there.
Right.
But what am I going to do? Like, it's like the whole goes back to the whole like being angry thing. I'm not going to be mad about it. I just expect what I know to expect, and just why get upset? Now I get maybe a little bit annoyed in the moment, but I don't hold on to that. I don't I get off the phone, I'm like, these idiots, and then I'm done.
So that seems very I've done some mindfulness work, and it seems like just seems very deeply, acceptance and these kinds of things. Is that stuff in quotes that you think about or whatever, or is this just how you've been, or is there something about the way you grew up or came along that's kind of given you this?
It's how I became from childhood to now. As a kid, I was very sensitive. I was overly sensitive, and every slight was the biggest deal in the world. And then I got to be around a teenager, and I'm like, this is stupid. And why am I making such a big deal out of it? This, fuck that person. Every slight ain't about, and I also came to realize that every slight ain't about me.
Right. That's
everybody being an asshole, just because they're being an asshole to me,
right,
don't mean it's about me. So
right.
Who gives a shit?
Right.
So I just became a bit more accepting and zen about almost all things.
Good. Yeah.
Like, you really have to push my buttons to make me pissed at you, right, and have it be a sustained anger.
Right. Like, not just I am mad, but that's...
You have to wrong me deeply. And it has to be... and you have to be malicious about it. Like, you can wrong me deeply, but if it was what I think is unintentional or more about you, then I don't care. Now, if you're wronging me because you want to hurt me, now, right, that's different. Then, like those people who roofied me, sometimes when I think about it, I still get mad all over again. I don't have a sustained anger. I get mad all over again, but then I get over it also very quickly. I'm like, what am I going to do? Go fly to Germany and find these people myself? Like it's a Taken Part 10? No. Right. Ain't nothing I can do about it.
Although that could be the screenplay.
That's sort of how I let it go, is there's nothing I personally can do about it that I would want to do. Like, if I wanted to, I could, get in shape like Jennifer Lopez and enough, and, and fly to Germany and track these people down and all that. I could. Theoretically. But I'm not gonna. What the hell for? I got a life to live that's way more important than making those people the center of my universe. And I don't allow things to live rent free. So I don't allow things to like or stay rent free. People can rent like
but
in
they gotta go.
rent it like a hotel room, like an SRO. But you ain't gonna stay here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's why like, you know, we could take it even to another track. Like it's why I don't like as much as I hate Donald Trump. He not living up here rent free. I'm not thinking about that idiot all the time, even when he was president.
Right.
What the fuck for? Like he's fucking up my life, specifically my life.
Yeah,
he's trying to defund the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
That would have fucked me personally.
Right. I mean, we just talked about it. You said it. Yeah.
So, but what am I gonna go to sleep thinking about that motherfucker at night? No. I'm gonna go to sleep with my Bodice Ripper English books on after having just watched, you know, binged Worst Cooks in America. That's what I'm doing.
That's funny. I love that. And one of the things I love about it is it's got that Serenity Prayer vibe, or like like I said, the mindfulness work I've been doing. And I came to this and only realized later how close it was in the thought. But I was like, I am powerless. I am powerful. Where is my power? And when I can bring myself back to that, it usually helps me do what you did, which is say, that is some bullshit. And I'm going to turn off the TV now and move on to cleaning my kitchen, because that's what's going to happen. And whether I stay mad or not, this kitchen still needs to be clean. And I'm
not perfect. Like, my life is not where I want it to be right now. And I don't think where I should be at this age, and how smart I'm pretty sure I am, and all this type of stuff. But you know, like, I feel like I should have a house by now. I should have 2 cars by now. I should, you know, I should be going to Jamaica every year by now. But I'm not. And I can't get mad about that. I can only be like, I can only do the things to move forward to do that. And I can only do those things when I am mentally and physically ready to do those things. And when I'm not going to be mad that I'm not physically and mentally ready to do those things. But I live a life of the mind as well. And a lot of things I have to internalize before I can externalize them. And so I don't have my life as, like I said, like, and Ed is not where he wants to be. And he externalizes a lot of those emotions. I tend to internalize a lot of those emotions. And, you know, and I think both ways are valid of dealing with them.
Sure.
And I feel like it's healthy for him to get a lot of that stuff out, because I think that he would explode if he didn't. And I think that it's healthy for me to internalize those things, a lot of those things, because I think if I externalize those things, a lot of those things, I'd be an asshole. So, and I don't want to be an asshole.
Right. I got you.
So,
I got you.
You know, but I still do it. It's just a different way of dealing with those things.
Now, tell me about the comedy piece, particularly, because of the way we missed each other time-wise on that scene. I haven't, like, we haven't performed together and all that, you know.
No.
So how do you navigate that with what we've talked about in general? And then, I'm just curious, sort of your experience around that.
Well, the last few years, I have not done comedy. Since the pandemic started and subsided, I have not really, I've done like 2 shows. Since the pandemic, like, began and subsided. And, like, really not until it sort of became a little bit safer to be outside and be around a bunch of people when I was vaccinated and all those things. I didn't do any shows until I was vaccinated. And so with comedy, I mean, I talk about but before that, I had my strokes, and I was still actively doing comedy, like on the hustle grind, as the kids call it, on the grind. And I talked about my TIAs on stage, but I was still going through trying to navigate getting my, you know, whatever is going on down there addressed. And but I hadn't talked about that on stage at all. I still haven't. But I talked about my TIAs on stage a lot. Especially because, I mean, I was going through active, like, recovery. Like, I was on new medication, and I had a heart monitor for a while, and it was like, and the heart monitor was this big ass albatross bullshit around my neck
Oh wow.
And so I had to address that on stage because what the fuck I look like
Yeah,
I'm
what is that
carrying
thing?
like an old school tricorder from the original series around my neck. So I had to say something about it.
Right, right, right.
And so I did address, and I have addressed, and I talk about it. I talk about it, and I also joke about it, and I also exaggerate the truth about it, about the circumstances, and and all those types of things, because comedy is truth, and everybody tells their own little version of the truth when they're doing stand-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Make the little things big, make the big things small. Have a good time. Yeah, no, I got you on that.
So it's just with comedy, it's like but I'm thinking about talking about this, but I think I won't talk about what's happening with like my whatever fibroids or whatever turns out to be until I know what it is.
That makes sense.
So until I get a diagnosis and then know what's going to be the next steps. But I'm also like, I'm going to get a breast reduction. I've talked about that at my last time I did stand up.
Okay.
Like that was the other thing I talked to one doctor about. Like, and like I mentioned it 10 years ago, but I was like, I don't know. But then my back started getting weaker and weaker, and I was like, these have to go. Goodbye. Goodbye, ladies. It's been a nice run.
I was gonna say it's been real, right?
But yeah, but so I'm not gonna get them all the way. Like I'm not getting a mastectomy because I don't have anything too terrible going on with those, but I do need to get them reduced. Like they're starting to interfere, especially as I get older and gravity and all. It's starting to be a quality of life issue that is very annoying.
Gotcha. And actually, speaking of being taken seriously, is that something? How is that received from by a doctor? I mean, I guess you're working with the women of color now, but when you say that, is the assumption that it's like, oh, you're a performer? Like, or do you have to do you find yourself explaining that? No, it's my back, this, that, how does that?
No, they never took that into consideration at all. Like she was like, oh, you do stand-up comedy? I should come see you. And I'm like, it's gonna be a minute, but okay.
Right.
You can come see me, that's fine, but I'm not doing that many shows these days.
Dude. Gotcha.
But no, she never she's like, that doesn't mean anything. You should be able to stand up for as long as you want with your titties being as being what they are, or you should be able to go out and not be at home crying because it hurts.
There's almost a built-in, not the pain tolerance that's assumed seems like a piece of this, but also like a built-in expectation of not just does it really hurt that much, but you could take it. Like it seems like that's an element of the conversation as well.
Very much so. It is you should be like, that was what it was for the previous 7 or 8 years that I was dealing with it before I threw my hands up for a couple of years. That it can't be that bad, because also like what it's like I thought for a long time it was endometriosis, which it kind of is. Endometriosis wasn't taken very seriously. They thought women were exaggerating. So like even white women weren't being taken seriously when it came to that.
Right.
So Black women definitely weren't being taken seriously, and I'm sure other women of color were not being taken seriously.
Right.
So it was, they didn't, or that we were trying to, or that you're trying to get something out of it. Like you're trying to, like, no, I just want to get to the bottom of it. What is happening? And then what can we do about it?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get Vicodin off of you. I don't need that if I don't need it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but I don't want to deal with this anymore. I cannot deal with this anymore.
What can people generally, but I'm going to go ahead and say men, since we're talking about issues that women in particular are facing for the most part, how either interpersonally or in a broader way, like, should we be like looking to amplify health stories, or like well, yeah, I'll ask for myself, what can I be doing to be part of a better version of this going forward?
What is it's the typical, or the what we now know to be genuine allyship. Amplify those stories when you come across them. Look into it on your own so that You know, especially like, and it should be personal for you. So you know me, for example. So now you know there are women who are dealing with these menstrual pains, and there's a couple of different causes. It could be traditional endometriosis. It could be fibroids, which can cause, like, it can be cancer. It can be all these things. And now you know to go look into it a little bit. Go talk to the women in your life about it. Do they experience it? To the other women in your life, your wife, your daughter. When when she starts, because she may be fine now, but who's to know 10, 20 years from now? She may be going through the exact same thing.
That's like the story you just told. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I said I had the world's best. Let me tell you something. Best period. She was on time. She was the set number of days.
Right.
She gave me no troubles.
Right.
I knew exactly the right mix of pads to tampons on what days.
It was just laid out, huh? So when they said this is normal, you was like, no, you don't know my friend. You don't know my friend. She wouldn't do me like this. Gotcha.
She's different now. And it was so, and it can be like that. It'll change over your lifetime. So that's something you could even just tell your daughter. Your cycle. If she has to have this talk with her mom, you could tell that, your cycle will change as you age, as you mature. It'll change. And menopause will sneak up on you faster than you think.
Right.
And you don't know how and everybody's menopause symptoms are different.
Right.
So some people it is 6 months of I'm hot as fuck and now I'm not. And
right.
And then for some people it is 8 years of bullshit. Some women go through it for a decade or more.
Yikes.
So you never know. And you don't know. And it's not really, to what we know now, not all that genetically inclined. So what your mom and your aunties and your grandma, what their menopause was like, may not be the experience that you have.
Interesting.
My mom had what she claims to be the best menopause experience of her life. She was like, one day I had my period and the next day I didn't, and it never came back, and it was the greatest day of my life. She's like, and then I had like 3 months of being hot and now I'm fine. Like, that was it. But my grandmother went through it when she was relatively young. She was only 35, and it was 5 years of nonsense when it started. And hers was terrible. That's my mom's mom.
Right. So
and they've all, and my mom has a bunch of sisters, and all of their menopause stories were different.
Right. Now, what's, and we can wrap up soon. I don't want to take more of your time than we talked about, but it's interesting to even hear you say it that way, like menopause stories. I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if I can really speak to more than about 2 menopause or 3 menopause stories in the world, so even the concept of a menopause, like the fact that that, and you can, you know what I mean? That's not something I, like, as you said, I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. So yeah.
Talk to the older women in your life. If you have, your mom is still around, or if your aunties, talk to them about it. Ask them about it. Tell your daughter to talk to them.
Right.
That you may not give a shit now, but trust me, in 35, 40 years, you're going to give a shit.
Right. Yeah, and you're
gonna give all the shits, and you're gonna want to know. And there's, it's important. Just like there's the milestones that men go through.
Right.
As they age. Prostate exams. Talk to your brothers about getting the finger in your butt.
Yep.
That shit can't be fun.
No.
You know what I mean? But do you want to know what's going to happen going in, or do you want to go in and be surprised?
Yeah.
Do you want to go in not knowing what to advocate for yourself? If your doctor takes advantage of you, if your doctor isn't honest with you, if you know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of things. So talk to each other about each other's experiences on that type of thing. Because it's one of those things you go through. You never talk about it. You're young and you're playing basketball and then all of a sudden there's a finger in your butt. But is your doctor a piece of shit? Or is your doctor the best doctor ever, and you want him to see all your friends because he
you need to see him.
Made it so pleasant that you're like, oh my God, he's amazing.
Right. Yeah. I love it. I
Right.
mean, it sounds like one of the key pieces here in
So
all of it
it's
you're discussing is community. I mean, and
yeah.
it's funny because that's like very central to the work we do, but it sounds like it's so critical, whether it's like you're saying somebody who can fill out paperwork when you can't, or in the first place having the conversations, or just to be that person who comes in the room and holds you when the pain is happening. It sounds like community is at the core of a lot of this.
Yeah, you want to be able to advocate for yourself, but you're, like I said, no man is an island. You have to have people around you. You have to talk about these things and be honest and be blunt and be, just, take these experiences, but because they're universal. If we have, once this world has access for all, not just this country, but the world has medical access for all, because it's going to come someday, unless we blow ourselves up first.
Right.
It's going to come for for everybody. Then you want to know these things. But in the meantime, it's within the community. So if you're only comfortable talking to other black people about it, if you're only comfortable talking to other white people about it, because they are sometimes open books in a weird ass way, but still talk to people about it. And do that, because you can't know, and you don't know what you don't know. Right. And but also verify, look into it. Don't fall down those strange rabbit holes, but verify. Go to reputable sources. Yeah,
that's thank you for adding the reputable piece, because if one more person tell me they did their research, my head is going.
YouTube University doesn't count. Now you can watch it happen on YouTube, but don't get some Zulu doctor talking about you don't need it, and then your butthole blows up because you didn't know you had cancer down there.
We don't want that. We do not want that. We do not want that. Well, Klee, this has been better than I imagined, which is saying a lot. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your candor. I appreciate you making me laugh. You know I love to laugh. And yeah, I feel like we seriously could have done 3 different episodes by the end of all this, but yeah, I thank you for sharing this, and I know for sure somebody's gonna hear this and ask a question they might not have asked, or reach out to somebody they might not have reached out to. So I feel like you're helping somebody out there to have a better experience than they would have otherwise.
Yeah. And you never know what people are going through. So be kind.
Yes.
And be zen. It's fine. It's going to be fine.
I'm working on it.
And for 99% of us, the world is not out to get us. Most of us are not that important. Not in that way. So just go through life.
Yeah.
Nobody's conspiring against you. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody has that kind of energy. People have barely energy to spend on themselves. Why the fuck are they spending it on you?
On you.
They're not.
Yeah. every less so these days. I've kind of grown out of it, but I definitely had the days where I was like, was there a meeting? Did y'all decide that y'all was gonna mess with me today? Because like everywhere I've been today, and it's you can feel that way, but no.
You just have bad days.
Yeah.
Bad days happen to everybody.
Yeah. I like that. I like making sure we don't take it personally. Well, I have worked on it. But you take good care. We will talk soon. And thanks so much. It's going to be a great episode.
Thank you.
All right. Take care now.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You know what time it is. It's time to walk the line. Now, my little buddy Biggie here actually decided to get in on the theme, and that is to make sure that we advocate for ourselves. Now, here I was wrapping up working on Klee's episode, really thinking about this idea of how important it is to advocate for ourselves. And just as I was about to record this walk the line, guess who started barking and crying and saying, "You got to take me out this creek, man." Well, guess what? It got me to thinking about how important that is. Sometimes we have to lift our voices. Sometimes the people around us might not want to hear it. Maybe it's that doctor that Klee was telling us about who really wasn't getting how serious it is. Now, sometimes the advocacy might be going to find the right doctor. Sometimes it might be making sure that we're listened to where we are. But listen to me. Our health It means so much, and it means so much on so many levels, whether it's your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, social health. Let's make sure that we're advocating for ourselves, like my man Biggie here. And hopefully at some point somebody will come along and care like I did. Until next time, let's make sure that we are connecting on WeAlign at wealign.alignp.com. You can check us out on Instagram at AlignP. You can check me out personally at BK2LA. Facebook, TikTok, wherever you want to find us, there we will be. We want to connect, so make sure you connect with us. And until then, advocate for yourself and know that we gon' get unstuck. We gon' be unstuck. We gon' live unstuck. Unstuck as fuck. Now, let's walk the line.